When we walk into a room to pitch an idea, most of us focus on what we're selling, the product, the plan, the performance. But the truth is, people don't just buy ideas. They buy belief. They buy energy. They buy you. Winning the pitch isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most authentic. Because while facts convince the mind, feelings move the heart, and the heart decides faster than logic ever can. You see, every great pitch, whether in business or in life, begins with connection. Not with data, not with slides, but with why you care. If you can make people feel that your mission matters, they'll want to be part of it. Not because they have to, but because they want to. So don't try to impress people, inspire them. Don't chase attention, earn trust. Don't just sell an idea, share a vision. Because when you lead with purpose, when your story carries honesty and emotion, you don't just win the pitch, you win the heart. And that's where every lasting success truly begins. When you walk into a room to pitch an idea, a product, or even yourself, something subtle but powerful happens. The air changes. You can feel every eye looking at you, measuring you, waiting to see what kind of person you are before they ever listen to what you say. Most people think that winning a pitch is about having the best slides, the best numbers, or the most confident delivery. But the truth is, the most persuasive people in the world don't sell with their mouths, they sell with their hearts. They don't start with data, they start with belief. They don't talk at people, they talk to them. Every great pitch begins long before you speak. It starts with clarity. Not of what you're offering, but of why you care. Because if you're not clear on that, no one else will be. People can sense it when your words are empty or when your energy is disconnected from your message. You can memorize every line, master every slide, and still lose the room. Because what you're missing isn't skill, it's sincerity. The world is full of noise, and what people crave most is truth. Think about the last time someone truly inspired you. Chances are, it wasn't because they had the perfect business plan or the most polished speech. It was because they believed in something so deeply that you couldn't help but feel it too. That's the power of conviction. When you speak from belief, you give your audience permission to feel. You remind them that they're human, not just decision makers, investors, or clients, but people with dreams, fears, and hopes of their own. When you stand in front of people, you are not pitching a product. You are inviting them into a story, one where they can see themselves making an impact. Too often, we walk into rooms trying to prove that we are the smartest, the most prepared, or the most deserving. But people don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with passion. You don't need to impress them, you need to move them. And movement comes not from facts, but from feelings. The most powerful pitches in history have one thing in common. They didn't just change minds, they changed hearts. They made people believe in something bigger than profit. Because when you lead with purpose, you create gravity, you pull people toward you. They don't follow you because they have to, but because they want to. And once someone's heart is aligned with your mission, logic becomes the servant, not the master. Winning a pitch is like building trust, and trust is never a transaction. It's a relationship. Trust comes when people sense consistency between what you say and who you are. You can't fake authenticity. You can pretend for a few minutes, but eventually the cracks show. The way you talk, the way you listen, the way your eyes light up when you describe your idea, it all reveals whether you believe what you're saying. When your words and your energy align, people listen differently. They lean in. They want to be part of it. So before you walk into that meeting, don't just rehearse your script. Rehearse your intention. Ask yourself, why does this matter to me? Because that's the emotion your audience will feel first. If your why is weak, your pitch will feel hollow no matter how strong your numbers are. But if your why is powerful, people will forgive your stumbles, your nerves, even your mistakes, because they'll see something real in you. We live in a time when attention is currency. Everyone is selling something, ideas, products, content, themselves. But attention without connection is meaningless. You can capture eyes with clever words, but only honesty captures hearts. To truly win the pitch, you must make people feel seen, not sold to. You must remind them that they are not just spectators, they are participants in something that matters. That's how you transform an audience into allies. I've seen people lose pitches they should have won and win pitches they had no right to win. The difference wasn't in the quality of their ideas, it was in the quality of their presence. The winners didn't just stand there and deliver. They shared. They weren't trying to dominate the room. They were trying to connect with it. And connection always beats competition. When you enter a room with humility and clarity, people relax. They stop judging and start listening. You don't have to be perfect, you have to be present. Speak less like a performer and more like a person having a genuine conversation. Tell them your story, not a polished marketing story, but the real one. Talk about what moved you to start, what challenges broke you, what moments gave you hope. Because vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the doorway to trust. And trust is the foundation of every deal, every relationship, every yes that really matters. Think of pitching like dating. You can't force someone to like you, but you can create an atmosphere where they want to. You can show your best self without pretending to be someone else. You can be passionate without being desperate. The best connections happen when both sides feel like they discovered something, not when one side feels they've been convinced. The same principle applies in every boardroom and every cafe. People remember how you made them feel long after they forget what you said. Winning the heart doesn't mean manipulating emotion, it means honoring it. It means respecting that every person sitting across from you has their own story, their own fears, their own reasons for listening. The goal isn't to outsmart them, but to understand them. The moment your audience feels understood, they'll start to trust you. And trust opens the door to agreement faster than persuasion ever can. So when you prepare your next pitch, focus less on crafting the perfect argument and more on building genuine empathy. Walk into the room curious, not desperate. Ask questions, listen deeply, and respond with presence. Show that you care about more than just your outcome, that you care about theirs too. When people feel that you're on their side, they stop seeing you as a seller and start seeing you as a partner. This isn't just about business, it's about humanity. Every conversation is an exchange of emotion before it's an exchange of information. The best communicators understand that leadership begins in the heart, not in the mind. They know that every yes worth having is earned through honesty, empathy, and purpose. In the end, the pitch is only a mirror. It reflects who you are and what you believe. You can't hide behind slides or statistics forever. So instead of asking, how can I make them believe in me? Ask, do I truly believe in what I'm saying? Because belief is contagious. When your conviction is real, people feel it. When your voice shakes but your purpose stands firm, people trust it. And when your heart aligns with your message, that's when magic happens. Winning the pitch is not about control. It's about surrender. Surrendering to authenticity, to humility, to the truth that we are all just people trying to be understood. And the ones who understand this, the ones who speak from purpose, listen with intent, and show up with heart, they don't just close deals. They open doors. They build bridges. They leave rooms different than they found them. Because in a world full of noise, the rarest thing you can offer is meaning. People may forget your numbers, your slides, your clever taglines, but they will never forget the way you made them feel valued, seen, and inspired. That's how you win the pitch. That's how you win the heart. And that's how you build something that lasts long after the meeting ends. Authenticity is one of those words we hear everywhere, in leadership books, podcasts, and motivational talks. Yet so few people truly live it. Everyone wants to appear authentic, but very few are willing to be authentic. Because authenticity isn't about showing your strengths. It's about showing your truth. It's about walking into a room and being completely aligned with who you are, what you believe, and why you're there, without hiding behind a mask of perfection or performance. When you stand before people, whether it's a room full of investors, a single client, a team you're leading, or someone you love, they don't just listen to your words. They listen to your tone, your body language, your pauses, your eyes. They are subconsciously asking themselves one simple question: can I trust you? And trust doesn't come from power or authority or even charisma. It comes from consistency between what you say and what you truly feel. We live in a time when people are surrounded by noise, marketing manipulation, half-truths, and perfectly curated lives on screens. They can smell insincerity faster than ever before. That's why authenticity has become such a rare and valuable currency. When you speak with honesty, when your words match your energy, you become magnetic. You don't have to force attention. People lean in because truth is refreshing in a world built on filters. The irony is that most people lose trust by trying too hard to earn it. They think trust is built through clever words, strategic charm, or confidence. But trust doesn't start with the other person. It starts with you. It begins with being at peace with your own imperfections. When you accept your flaws and speak from your genuine self, others sense it. They don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. Authenticity isn't weakness. It's not about spilling your heart recklessly or exposing your pain dramatically. It's about owning your story with courage. It's about standing firm in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. When you show people that you have nothing to hide, they start to feel safe around you, and safety is the foundation of trust. Imagine two people pitching the same idea. One walks in with a rehearsed speech, flawless presentation, every slide timed perfectly. The other walks in nervous but sincere. They speak with genuine emotion. They admit what they don't know, and they talk about why this idea matters to them personally. The first may impress for a moment, but the second will connect. Because people don't remember polished words, they remember human presence. They remember how you made them feel understood, not how you made yourself look smart. Authenticity builds trust because it removes the invisible wall between me and you. It creates belonging. The moment someone senses that you're not pretending, they exhale. They let their guard down. They feel free to be themselves too. That's when real communication begins. Not when both people are performing, but when both are being. In business, we talk about trust as a professional metric, something that influences sales, loyalty, or reputation. But trust is deeply emotional. It's born from vulnerability, not perfection. It's not earned through authority, it's earned through empathy. When people feel seen, they open up. When they sense you care more about understanding than persuading, they follow you not because they must, but because they want to. There's a moment in every meaningful conversation where you can feel the energy shift. It's when pretense fades and truth steps in. Maybe it's when someone says, honestly, I was scared, or I didn't know what I was doing, or this means more to me than it looks. That moment changes everything. Because honesty builds bridges that performance never can. To be authentic means to lead with your heart before your script. It means being fully present instead of perfectly polished. You can't fake presence. People feel it immediately. You can have all the right words, but if your energy doesn't match them, no one will believe you. And yet, even when your words stumble, but your heart shines through, people forgive it. They forgive mistakes, but they never forgive manipulation. We often underestimate how intelligent people's instincts are. You can't trick intuition. Someone might not be able to explain why they don't trust you, but they can feel it. It's in the small inconsistencies. The smile that doesn't reach your eyes, the confident tone that hides fear, the rehearsed answer that sounds too smooth. Authenticity doesn't eliminate fear, but it refuses to hide behind it. And here's the paradox: the more you try to appear authentic, the less authentic you become. Because authenticity isn't a technique, it's a state of being. It's what happens when you stop trying to be impressive and start being honest, when your focus shifts from how do I look to what do I believe. That's when people start to see the real you. And the real you, even with your flaws, your stumbles, your uncertainty, is infinitely more trustworthy than the perfect version you're trying to perform. Authenticity takes courage because it means showing up without guarantees. It means being okay with not being liked by everyone. But that's also the secret. Authenticity filters out the wrong connections and deepens the right ones. When you're real, you don't attract everyone, but you attract the ones who truly align with your values. And those are the relationships that last. In business, in friendship, in love. Trust built on performance fades the moment something goes wrong. But trust built on authenticity grows stronger through failure. When you make a mistake and own it, when you say, I don't know, but I'll find out. Or, I was wrong and I'm sorry, people respect you more because honesty creates safety and safety creates loyalty. You see, authenticity isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. Alignment between what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do. When those four things are in sync, you move with integrity. People can sense it even if they can't explain it. They may not remember your exact words, but they'll remember the feeling of certainty you carried, the quiet strength that comes from being exactly who you say you are. In a world obsessed with image, being authentic is a rebellion. It means you value truth over applause. It means you'd rather be trusted than admired. The irony is, when you choose to be genuine, you end up being admired anyway, not for your performance, but for your presence. Because realness has a beauty that no polish can imitate. The best leaders, the best communicators, the best human beings share one simple trait. They mean what they say, and they live what they mean. They don't hide behind titles or trends. They don't bend their values for approval. Their strength comes not from pretending to have all the answers, but from standing firmly in the questions that matter. That's what authenticity looks like. Unshakable in purpose, open in heart. When you speak with authenticity, you invite others to do the same. You set a tone of honesty that ripples beyond the room. It makes people feel that truth is safe again, that integrity still matters, that being human is enough. And in that space, trust doesn't need to be demanded, it's offered freely. So in every pitch, every conversation, every connection, remember this: people may not always agree with you, but if they trust you, they'll listen. If they sense that your intentions are real, they'll give you their attention. If they feel that your actions match your words, they'll give you their loyalty. Authenticity builds trust because it reminds us of something essential, that we are all human. And when we strip away the armor, when we show up as ourselves, when we stop performing and start connecting, something incredible happens. People stop doubting and start believing. Not just in you, but in what's possible when truth leads the way. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings. We tell ourselves that we make decisions by weighing facts, analyzing data, and calculating outcomes. We believe that logic is in control, that emotion is a distraction, a weakness that clouds judgment. But deep down, we all know that's not true. Because if we were purely logical, we wouldn't fall in love. We wouldn't take risks. We wouldn't chase dreams that don't make sense on paper. The truth is, every decision we make, from what we buy, to whom we trust, to what we believe in, begins with emotion. Our hearts decide first, and our minds justify it later. That's how human beings work. We feel something before we think something. Emotion is the spark that ignites action. Logic only comes in afterward to organize the story in a way that sounds reasonable. This isn't weakness. It's biology. It's how we're wired. We are creatures of feeling before we are creatures of reason. Think about it. You can show someone 100 slides of statistics, and they'll nod politely. But if you tell one honest story that touches them, a story about struggle, hope, loss, or love, you'll move them in ways numbers never could. People forget what they hear, they remember what they feel. You can persuade the mind, but only emotion can move the heart, and only the heart can move people to act. The most successful leaders, communicators, and storytellers understand this truth instinctively. They don't speak to the head, they speak to the soul. They know that before someone believes in your idea, they have to feel something about it. When you inspire emotion, when you make people feel excitement, belonging, or purpose, you give meaning to the facts. Without emotion, your message is just data. With emotion, it becomes human. In every pitch, every presentation, and every conversation, emotion is the invisible thread that connects you to your audience. The way you look at them, the tone in your voice, the honesty in your story. These are the things that reach them. It's not about manipulation, it's about empathy. It's about understanding what truly matters to them and speaking to that truth. People won't remember your statistics, but they will remember the way your words made them believe that something more was possible. I once met a young entrepreneur who had spent months preparing a pitch for investors. He had the perfect business model, financial projections, and competitive analysis. But when he presented, the room was silent. No questions, no enthusiasm, just polite nods. A few weeks later, he tried again, this time ditching the deck and speaking from the heart. He told the story of why he started, how his idea came from watching his parents struggle, how he wanted to make life easier for people like them. He didn't even finish before one investor said, "I'm in." Nothing in his business had changed. The only thing that changed was the energy. He stopped trying to convince and started trying to connect. That's the difference emotion makes. When you speak with emotion, you remind people of their own humanity. You take them out of their heads and into their hearts. That's where the real decision happens. Because people don't commit to ideas. They commit to feelings. They commit to something that resonates with who they are or who they want to become. We've all experienced moments where we made a choice that made no logical sense but felt undeniably right. Quitting a stable job to follow a dream. Helping someone who couldn't repay us. Trusting a stranger because something about them just felt genuine. These moments define us. They shape our lives not because they follow reason, but because they honor intuition. Emotion gives us the courage to take leaps that logic alone never would. When you're pitching an idea or leading a team, emotion is what creates momentum. Logic informs, but emotion transforms. It turns passive listeners into active believers. It turns a room full of strangers into a circle of allies. And that shift happens not when you talk about what you do, but when you share why it matters. When people feel your purpose, they find their own within it. That's the secret to real influence, not telling people what to think, but helping them feel something that moves them to act. Emotion isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, the pause before a word, the tremor in a voice, the story that sounds simple but carries a lifetime of truth. That's when people feel it most. Because emotion is contagious, not through intensity, but through sincerity. When your emotion is real, people feel it even when you don't say much. We're taught to hide emotion in professional spaces as if it weakens credibility. But the opposite is true. Emotion doesn't make you less professional. It makes you more persuasive. It shows you care. It reminds people that behind every project, every product, and every decision, there's a human story. Emotion turns transactions into relationships and audiences into communities. It gives your message heartbeats. In sales, people talk about closing the deal, but you can't close a deal with logic alone. You close it by making people feel that they can trust you, that you see them, that your values align with theirs. In leadership, you don't motivate people by telling them what to do. You move them by helping them feel part of something meaningful. Emotion isn't an accessory to influence, it's the foundation of it. Even in our personal lives, the same truth holds. Think about the people who've influenced you the most. Maybe it was a teacher who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, a friend who listened without judgment, or a mentor who reminded you that failure isn't the opposite of success, but part of it. None of them changed you with logic. They changed you with emotion, with love, empathy, belief. That's what humans remember. When you pitch or present, don't just aim to inform, aim to evoke. Make people feel hope, excitement, belonging, or urgency. Use stories, not slogans. Use honesty, not hype. Because emotion is not about drama, it's about connection. It's about showing that your idea isn't just smart, it's meaningful. That it solves a real problem for real people. There's a reason we cry at movies, even though we know they're not real. Our minds understand fiction, but our hearts don't care. Emotion bypasses logic. It enters us through feeling, not reasoning. The same principle applies in life. When you want someone to remember you, make them feel something they can't forget. Some of the greatest moments in history, revolutions, movements, breakthroughs, didn't begin with strategy, they began with emotion. Someone felt something so deeply that it sparked others to feel it too. Passion spreads faster than logic because it speaks to the deepest part of what makes us human, the need to belong, to believe, to matter. Emotion drives decision-making not because it's irrational, but because it's authentic. It's the raw signal beneath all our reasoning. Logic helps us explain decisions, but emotion creates them. And when you understand that, you stop trying to manipulate feelings and start trying to honor them. You start speaking to people's values, not just their interests. You stop asking for attention and start earning trust. Every time you communicate, whether in business or in love, remember this: if people feel nothing, they'll do nothing. But if they feel something real, they'll follow you, support you, and believe in what you're building. Emotion gives meaning to information. It turns ideas into movements and words into memories. So the next time you pitch, lead, or share your vision, don't hide your heart behind facts. Let it guide your words. Because it's not your data that will make people decide. It's your emotion that will make them believe. Persuasion is everywhere. Every ad you see, every politician you hear, every brand you follow is trying to persuade you to think a certain way, to buy something, to believe something. Persuasion is about convincing, about control, about moving someone else's will in your direction. But the truth is, persuasion is tiring for both sides. People can feel when they are being pushed, even subtly. And the more you push, the more they resist. Because no one likes being convinced, everyone likes being included. That's the difference between persuasion and participation. Persuasion demands, participation invites. One creates pressure, the other creates purpose. In every interaction, whether it's a pitch, a meeting, or a relationship, the goal should not be to persuade people to agree with you, but to inspire them to join you. When you inspire participation, you stop speaking at people and start speaking with them. You shift from trying to win an argument to trying to build alignment. It's no longer about who's right, it's about what's meaningful. And that shift changes everything. People don't want to be sold to. They want to be part of something. They want to feel that their voice matters, that they have a role to play in something bigger than themselves. When you inspire participation, you create a sense of belonging, a shared mission. You stop saying, "Here's my idea," and start saying, "Here's our idea." You stop thinking of people as an audience and start seeing them as allies. That's what the best communicators and leaders understand. They don't focus on getting by. They focus on building belief. They create an environment where people choose to be part of the journey, not because they were convinced, but because they care. It's a subtle difference, but it's the foundation of lasting influence. Think about the people you've willingly followed, the teachers, mentors, or leaders who made you feel inspired. Did they try to persuade you with facts or arguments? Or did they make you feel like you mattered? They gave you a reason to belong. They didn't say, you should do this because it benefits me. They said, we can do this because it matters. They turned obligation into ownership. That's what participation does. It gives people a stake in the outcome. When people participate, they invest emotionally. They stop being passive observers and become active contributors. And the moment that happens, commitment deepens. Because people don't fight for things they're told to believe in. They fight for things they feel part of. You can persuade someone to support you once, but you can inspire someone to stand with you forever. This is true in every field, from business to art, from politics to relationships. A company that tries to persuade customers to buy will always need more marketing. But a company that inspires customers to participate, to feel like they're part of a mission, part of a change, builds loyalty that no discount can buy. That's why people line up overnight for brands that stand for something, not just sell something. They're not just purchasing, they're participating in a belief. In a conversation or a pitch, when your goal is to inspire participation, your tone changes. You stop trying to dominate the space with your brilliance, and you start trying to connect with honesty. You ask questions. You listen. You make people feel seen. Because when people feel seen, they want to contribute. When they feel heard, they start to open up. And when they feel valued, they start to believe. Persuasion says, let me change your mind. Inspiration says, let's change something together. The first seeks compliance, the second builds community. And human beings have always been driven by the desire to belong. It's one of our oldest instincts to find our tribe, to work together towards something meaningful. When you tap into that instinct, you don't have to pull people, they come willingly. The truth is, no one ever changed the world by convincing others. They changed it by inspiring others. You can't manipulate someone into passion, you can only awaken it. And that awakening happens when people feel that their contribution matters. When they feel trusted, included, and valued, they don't just listen, they act. This approach requires humility. It means giving up control. It means being open to collaboration, to imperfection, to other people's ideas. Because participation isn't about one person's vision being accepted. It's about a shared vision being built. The best ideas often emerge when you create space for others to add their voice. When you stop trying to be the smartest person in the room and start helping others shine, the entire room grows brighter. Inspiring participation isn't easy because it asks you to let go of your ego. Persuasion feeds the ego, inspiration feeds the soul. Persuasion says, I need to win. Inspiration says, we need to build. One ends with applause, the other begins with movement. And movements don't start with pressure, they start with purpose. When people feel that sense of shared purpose, they don't need to be pushed. They pull with you. They take ownership. They bring ideas you never imagined. They work harder, care deeper, and stay longer. That's why great leaders don't need to persuade every day. They simply remind people why they started. The mission itself becomes the motivation. Even in one-on-one relationships, this principle holds true. You can't force someone to love, respect, or support you. You can only invite them into something meaningful. When you inspire participation in relationships, you stop trying to win arguments and start trying to build understanding. You replace control with curiosity. You stop saying, you should see it my way, and start asking, how can we see this together? When you inspire someone to participate, you're not taking their freedom. You're giving it back. You're giving them the freedom to choose, to believe, to engage willingly. That choice is what makes connection powerful. People rarely remember what they were persuaded to do, but they always remember what they chose to be part of. And that's the heart of it. Participation transforms. It turns compliance into commitment, agreement into alignment, and effort into enthusiasm. You can't fake it, and you can't force it. It grows naturally when people feel trust, purpose, and belonging. So the next time you walk into a room to share an idea, remember this: your job isn't to convince people that you're right. It's to create an environment where they want to join you. Speak less like a seller and more like a storyteller. Talk less about what's in it for you and more about what's possible for us. Invite people into the vision. Let them see themselves in it. Because when they do, persuasion becomes unnecessary. They'll move with you because they want to, not because they have to. That's the quiet power of inspiration. It doesn't demand attention, it earns devotion. It doesn't chase agreement, it builds belief. And in the end, belief will always go further than persuasion ever could. At the end of the day, every pitch, every meeting, every conversation comes down to something simple: people. Behind every handshake is a heartbeat. Behind every decision is a feeling. And behind every success is a story that made someone believe. So when you speak, don't just aim to impress. Aim to connect. Don't try to be perfect. Try to be real. Because people may forget your words, your slides, even your name. But they will never forget the way you made them feel. Win their trust with truth. Win their respect with humility. And win their hearts with purpose. That's how you don't just win the pitch. That's how you win the people.